Okay, I'd like to talk today about metaphors and images of climate control. And historically informed metaphors and evocative visual images can reveal much about climate change. And they reveal the attitudes and assumptions that are otherwise hidden and invisible about climate control. So much of the language is technical, much of the images, many of the images are very scientific diagrams. And I'd like to show you a few claims, metaphorical claims and visual images that show planetary surgeons and images of planetary control that renders the unimaginable, that is, trying to control the Earth's climate, at least visible to us. And so my first claim is that climate is invisible. And it's even invisible to climate scientists. We find it very difficult to point and say, there's the climate, there is climate change. After 7 years of drought, Lake Powell holds only 50% of the water it did. And it made the cover of a book called Climate Change, Picturing the Science. The claim is that the rock is visibly marked by a bathtub ring, a reminder of wetter times. But the focus of the image is completely on the dry, cracked mud in the foreground. It's a stunning image, but that is a product of recent drought. The landscape itself, which you can see in the background, was carved some 11 to 5 million years ago by the uplift and erosion of ancient rock layers deposited in the sea sediments. And the deposits were laid down 300 million years ago. So in a visual depiction of climate on the cover of a climate change book, we see only the focus on the recent dry, cracked mud, where the geological record disappears and becomes invisible in the background. So the horizontal layers illuminated by the light in the back are depicting vast environmental and climatic changes of sea level over millions of years ago. So those were wetter times indeed. I'll share several metaphors. Master metaphors often guide the way we talk about things, and they shape our understandings. And one of the master metaphors is the planet is a body. And that body, in current discourse, is a sick patient or perhaps an addict, maybe a carbon addict. The planet is sick, some remedies are needed, or humanity is suffering from overconsumption. And so maybe we need sort of a carbon liposuction. In 1995, some of the leaders of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change met in Spain, and they portrayed the planet as a sick patient. They medicalized global warming. And Bert Bohlin, one of the founders of the IPCC, Sir John Houghton, one of the leaders of it, and Luiz Gilvan Meira Filhof from Brazil, again, one of the major movers and shakers in the group, are characterized as sort of three physicians wearing ties, diagnosing Earth's CO2-induced fever. Africa and India are clearly suffering here. The thermometer is inserted somewhere near Madagascar, and the planet is certainly ill. La Jolla, California is 180 degrees away, and that's another possible thermometer insertion point. But diagnosis of a sick planet is not the cure. If Earth needs treatment, what is the proper medicine, and who signs the consent form for the planet? Or does the Earth perhaps need invasive surgery? Famous geoscientist James Lovelock once likened geoengineering to crude planetary surgery as practiced by the butcher-barber surgeons of old. According to Lovelock, quote, "Our ignorance of the Earth's system is overwhelming. The best option may simply be kind words and letting nature take its course." And so, is planetary surgery feasible? I don't think so. A second master metaphor is that the planet is a machine, and somewhere in that machine there are control knobs or mechanisms or ways of tuning up the dysfunctional machine. And so when we look at a schematic of a global atmospheric model, it doesn't convey a lot of information, but it shows the Earth as a gridded box of calculation points, and lots of different sorts of processes going on. In fact, too many to really be accounted for. The simplest models, the ones that were built originally, were those of fluid dynamics, and they had the physical equations of fluid flow in them. If you start to add thermodynamics, you add a complicating term, and as in the diagram, you add oceans and topography and chemistry and industry, and perhaps also the albedo modification techniques, then you have an uncalculable model. Doesn't give you a deterministic output. So we really don't know what's happening, and we really can't honestly intervene and know what we might be doing with the planet. So again, part of this mechanistic metaphor is that the planet has control knobs that need to be adjusted. And at one of the meetings I was attending, the image was of a giant human hand reaching into space to set the Earth's thermostat. It was a male hand, it was godlike in scale. The hand was on the thermostat, and the thermostat was nowhere. That is, it was perhaps in outer space. With the center of the dial, it looks like in the middle of the image, centered on Roswell, New Mexico. So does the planet have a thermostat? Again, I don't think so. And the final master metaphor of this short presentation is the planet can be fixed. That is, there's technocrats out there with the expertise and the vision and the skills. And I do know that we don't have the technology to fix the planet on that scale. And I also don't think we have the wisdom. So the quest to control or fix the sky is both powerful and perennial. Metaphors and images of climate control can help clarify the message, help us bridge a gap between knowledge and action, and I think empower activism and real opposition to a very silly notion. Thank you.